The massive space station called Nexus Prime floated in the darkness between stars. Inside its metal walls, the most powerful beings in the galaxy sat around a huge table. Their faces showed fear and anger. For 3 days, their best machines had been watching something that made no sense. Admiral Vexithara stood at the front of the room. Her blue skin was pale with worry. Behind her, a giant screen showed dots of light moving through space. These dots were ships, but not like any ships they had ever seen before. "The unknown fleet continues to approach our outer territories," she said. Her voice was steady, but her hands shook slightly. "Our computers cannot match their design to any known species in our records." Emperor Corath slammed his fist on the table. The sound echoed through the chamber. He was the ruler of the Zephyrian Empire, the strongest force in the galaxy. His empire had conquered hundreds of worlds. No one had ever challenged his power before. "How is this possible?" he roared. "We have files on every species in this galaxy. We know every ship design, every weapon type, every technology. Nothing should surprise us." The intelligence officer, a thin creature with 6 arms, stepped forward. "Your Majesty, we have run the scans through our systems many times. These ships use materials we have never seen. Some appear to be made from simple metals, but they move in ways that should be impossible. Others seem to have living parts mixed with machines." Around the table, representatives from dozens of species whispered to each other. The Galactic Hegemony Council had ruled space for over 1,000 years. They had never faced anything they could not understand or defeat. "How many ships?" asked Counselor Zelmoth, her tentacles curling with nervousness. Admiral Vexithara looked at her notes. "Our best estimate is between 8,000 and 12,000 vessels. The number keeps changing because some ships seem to disappear from our sensors, then reappear somewhere else." The room fell silent. Even the smallest member species in the Council had fleets of only a few hundred ships. The entire hegemony combined fleet numbered around 15,000 vessels. This unknown force was nearly as large as their entire military. "What do we know about their technology?" Emperor Corath asked. "Very little, Your Majesty," the intelligence officer replied. "Their energy signatures are unlike anything in our databases. Some ships show heat patterns that suggest they use controlled explosions for power. Others appear to bend space around them in ways our physics cannot explain." Dr. Yilvana, the chief scientist, stood up. Her insect-like features twitched with excitement and fear. "The most disturbing aspect is their stealth capability. Our sensors can detect a single ship from 10 light-years away, yet these vessels appear and disappear without warning. Either their technology is far beyond ours, or they understand something about space that we do not." Emperor Corath walked to the large window that showed the stars outside. His empire controlled most of this galaxy. Every species either served him willingly or had been forced to serve. He had built his power through strength and fear. The idea that something unknown was approaching his territory made him angry. "Where did they come from?" he asked. "Unknown, Your Majesty," Admiral Vexithara said. "They did not come from any of our trade routes or known space lanes. Our long-range sensors show they emerged from a region we marked as empty space. No planets, no stars, nothing that could support life." "That is impossible," said Counselor Thekran, a large reptilian being. "Nothing can survive in deep space without a homeworld or supply stations." "Yet here they are," the Admiral replied, "moving toward our space with clear purpose and direction." The Emperor turned back to face the Council. His red eyes glowed with determination. "What are their intentions? Have they tried to communicate?" "No attempts at communication, Your Majesty. They maintain formation and continue on their current path. At their present speed, they will reach the Outer Rim territories in 6 standard days. The Outer Rim worlds are where we keep the mining colonies," Counselor Zelmoth said. "Millions of workers live there. If these unknowns are hostile, then we will destroy them," Emperor Corath said firmly. "I did not build this empire by running from threats. We will find out who they are and what they want. If they seek war, they will find it." Admiral Vexithara activated the tactical display. The screen showed the current positions of all hegemony fleets. "Your Majesty, I recommend we mobilize the second and third fleets. Together they number over 4,000 ships. That should be enough to either destroy this unknown force or convince them to turn away. No, the Emperor said. If they have numbers equal to ours, a direct attack might fail. We need more information first. Dr. Yilvana stepped forward again. Your Majesty, I suggest we send a small scouting force, fast ships that can observe and report back without engaging in battle. We need to know what we are facing before we commit our main fleets. The Emperor considered this. Around him, the council members waited for his decision. These beings represented species that had been conquered or had joined the hegemony willingly. They all depended on his strength to maintain order in the galaxy. Very well, he said finally. Admiral Vexithera, select your best reconnaissance squadron. I want to know everything about these intruders, their weapons, their defenses, their technology. Most importantly, I want to know their intentions. It will be done, Your Majesty, the Admiral replied. And prepare the first fleet for deployment, the Emperor added. If our scouts discover hostile intentions, I want to be ready to respond with overwhelming force. As the council members filed out of the chamber, Emperor Corath remained at the window. He stared into the darkness of space, thinking about the unknown fleet approaching his territory. In all his years of conquest, he had never faced an enemy he could not identify or understand. The unknown ships continued their steady approach. Whatever they were, wherever they came from, they showed no fear of the most powerful empire in the galaxy. This worried the Emperor more than he would admit to his advisors. In the distance, stars twinkled like tiny diamonds against the black of space. Somewhere among those stars, an unknown force was coming toward them. Soon they would have answers. The Emperor hoped those answers would not change everything he had built. The great wheel of Nexus Prime continued to turn slowly in the void. Inside, military officers and scientists worked through the night, preparing for what might be the most important encounter in galactic history. None of them knew that their entire understanding of the universe was about to change forever. Outside, the unknown fleet maintained its course, silent, determined, and carrying secrets that would shake the foundation of everything the galactic hegemony believed about power, technology, and the nature of intelligence itself. Captain Zil-Andra checked her instruments one more time. Her squadron of 12 ships moved through space toward the unknown fleet. She was one of the best officers in the hegemony navy. Her crew had fought in dozens of battles and won them all. Today felt different, though. Today they were flying toward something they did not understand. Status report, she called to her bridge crew. All ships ready, Captain, replied her first officer, Lieutenant Kextal. Weapons charged, shields at maximum. Long-range sensors show the unknown fleet maintaining course and speed. Captain Zil-Andra nodded. Her green skin had darker patches that showed her nervousness, but her voice remained calm. Remember, our mission is to observe and identify. We engage only if they attack first. The Kepler Nebula spread out before them like a cloud of purple and gold gas. It was beautiful and dangerous. The nebula interfered with sensors and communications. It was the perfect place for the unknown fleet to hide their true intentions. Contact in 30 minutes, announced the navigation officer. Zil-Andra had studied every battle in hegemony history. She knew how to fight against energy weapons, kinetic weapons, and even biological attacks. But she had never faced an enemy she could not identify. Her tactical computers had no data to work with. Captain, I'm detecting energy signatures ahead, called the sensor operator. Multiple contacts, bearing 27 Mark IV. On the main screen, dots of light appeared. The unknown ships looked strange. Some were long and thin like needles. Others were wide and flat. A few looked like they had been built from different parts stuck together. None of them matched any design in the hegemony database. Count and classification? Zil-Andra asked. I'm reading 47 vessels, Captain. But the classifications make no sense. Some show massive energy output but small mass. Others show heavy mass, but almost no energy signature. The captain frowned. In normal space combat, energy output matched ship size and capability. Heavy ships needed heavy power plants. Light ships used smaller reactors. These unknowns seemed to break that basic rule. Weapon status on the unknown ships? Unknown, Captain. I'm detecting multiple energy buildups, but they don't match any known weapon signatures. As they got closer, Zilandra could see the unknown ships more clearly. They moved in a formation that looked random but felt purposeful. Some ships stayed close together while others spread out in patterns she did not recognize. Open a communication channel, she ordered. Let's see if they want to talk. The communications officer worked at his console. Channel open, Captain, broadcasting on all standard frequencies. Unknown vessels, this is Captain Zilandra of the Galactic Hegemony Naval Force. You are approaching Hegemony space. Please identify yourselves and state your intentions. For several minutes there was no response. Then the communication system came alive with voices speaking in languages none of them had ever heard. The computer tried to translate, but the words made no sense. Suddenly a clear voice spoke in perfect galactic standard. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Nations Space Command, Terran Defense Fleet. We received distress signals from this sector indicating systematic oppression and illegal slave raids. We are here to investigate these reports. Captain Zilandra felt a chill run through her body. The voice was calm and professional, but there was something underneath it that suggested great strength and determination. Admiral Chen, you are in Hegemony space without permission. I must ask you to identify your species and provide your diplomatic credentials. Our species is human, from the planet Earth, came the reply. As for credentials, we recognize no authority that builds its power on the suffering of others. We suggest you contact your leadership immediately and inform them that we take a very dim view of civilizations built on slavery and oppression. The bridge crew looked at each other with concern. No one had ever spoken to the hegemony with such casual disrespect. Even their enemies usually showed some fear or anger. This Admiral Chen sounded like she was discussing the weather. Admiral, you should know that you are heavily outnumbered, Zilandra said, trying to sound threatening. My government will not tolerate unauthorized intrusion into our territory. There was what sounded like soft laughter on the communication channel. Captain, we're not here to conquer territory. We're here to investigate crimes against intelligent life. Your people have been broadcasting their activities across space for decades. Some of us found those broadcasts very disturbing. Zilandra activated her tactical sensors to get a better read on the human ships. The moment her sensors touched the unknown vessels, every single human ship simultaneously turned toward her squadron. Red lights began flashing on her console. Captain, her weapons officer shouted. All enemy vessels have locked targeting systems on us. I'm reading multiple weapon locks from every ship in their formation. The speed of their response was impossible. Even the fastest computers in the Hegemony Navy took several seconds to coordinate targeting between multiple ships. The humans had responded instantly as if they had been expecting the sensor probe. How did they lock onto us so quickly? Zilandra demanded. Unknown, Captain. Their targeting systems appear to be more advanced than ours. Admiral Chen's voice came over the communication system again. Captain, we detected your active sensor sweep. We don't appreciate being scanned by potential hostiles. Please keep your sensors in passive mode, or we'll consider it a hostile act. Zilandra realized she was in a situation she had never trained for. The humans had superior sensors, faster response times, and weapons she could not identify. Worse, they seemed completely unafraid of her squadron. Admiral Chen, perhaps we could arrange a meeting between our leaders. I'm sure any misunderstandings can be resolved through proper diplomatic channels. That's an excellent idea, Captain. We would be happy to discuss the situation with your Emperor Corath. We have several questions about his government's activities in this region of space. The casual way the human admiral said the Emperor's name shocked Zilandra. How did these unknowns know who ruled the hegemony? How long had they been watching? I will relay your message to my superiors, Zilandra said carefully. Where would you suggest such a meeting take place? Neutral space would be appropriate. We'll send coordinates. Oh, and Captain, you might want to warn your Emperor that we've been monitoring his communications for quite some time. We know about the mining colonies, the forced labor camps, and the raids on primitive worlds. We know exactly what kind of government he runs. The communication channel closed, leaving Zilandra and her crew in stunned silence. The humans knew everything. They had been watching the hegemony for years, maybe decades. They knew about activities that were supposed to be classified at the highest levels. "Captain, what are your orders?" asked Lieutenant Kextal. Zealandra looked at the tactical display. The human ships maintained their weapon locks but made no aggressive moves. They were sending a clear message. "We could destroy you right now, but we choose not to." The restraint was almost more frightening than an attack would have been. "Send a priority message to Nexus Prime," she ordered. "Tell them we have made contact with the unknown fleet. Tell them these humans know everything about our operations. And tell them—" She paused, trying to find the right words. "Tell them, we may be facing an enemy unlike anything we have encountered before." As her communication officer transmitted the message, Zealandra continued to study the human ships. They had revealed almost nothing about their true capabilities, yet she already knew they were dangerous. Any species that could monitor hegemony communications without being detected possessed technology far beyond what they understood. The humans waited patiently in space, their ships maintaining perfect formation. They showed no signs of impatience or aggression. They seemed content to wait for the hegemony leadership to make the next move. Captain Zealandra had the uncomfortable feeling that the humans already knew exactly what that next move would be. Emperor Corath's personal flagship was the largest warship ever built. The massive dreadnought Dominion's Might led a fleet of 300 ships toward the meeting point in neutral space. The Emperor had never personally commanded a fleet this size unless he was planning to conquer an entire star system. On the bridge of his flagship, Corath studied the tactical displays showing the human fleet. Even with his best sensors, the exact number of human ships remained unclear. They seemed to appear and disappear from his screens without warning. "Status report," he commanded. "First Fleet in full deployment, Your Majesty," Admiral Vexathera replied. "All ships ready for combat. Long-range sensors show approximately 50 human vessels at the meeting coordinates." Corath smiled coldly. 50 ships against 300. These humans were either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. "Have they responded to our arrival?" "Yes, Your Majesty. Admiral Chen has agreed to a direct communication session. She also requested permission to demonstrate human capabilities." "Demonstrate?" Corath laughed. "Let them show us what they think passes for military power in their primitive civilization." The communication screen activated, showing a human female in a simple uniform. Admiral Chen looked much smaller and weaker than any species in the hegemony. Her skin was pale, her body looked fragile, and she had no visible natural weapons like claws or protective armor. "Emperor Corath," she said with a slight nod. "Thank you for agreeing to this meeting. You will address me as Your Imperial Majesty," Corath said firmly. "You are in the presence of the ruler of the greatest empire in galactic history." Admiral Chen's expression did not change. "I'm afraid Earth doesn't recognize inherited titles based on conquest and oppression. I'll call you Emperor if you prefer, but we consider all intelligent beings to be equal in worth and dignity." The casual disrespect stunned everyone on the bridge. No one had ever spoken to Emperor Corath that way and lived. Several officers reached for their weapons before the Emperor raised a hand to stop them. "You mentioned wanting to demonstrate your capabilities," Corath said, his voice dangerously quiet. "I am curious to see what you consider impressive." "Certainly. We believe it's important for all parties to understand what they're dealing with. Would you be willing to participate in a limited engagement, one of your ships against one of ours?" Corath's eyes brightened. This was perfect. He could demonstrate the superiority of hegemony technology while humiliating these arrogant humans. "Agreed. Choose your best ship." "Thank you. We'll use the destroyer USS Defiance. She's one of our newer vessels, though not our most powerful." On the tactical display, a human ship separated from their formation. It was much smaller than even Corath's lightest cruisers. The Emperor selected one of his heavy cruisers, the Stellar Dominator, armed with the most advanced weapons in the hegemony arsenal. "Rules of engagement?" Admiral Chen asked. "Standard combat rules. Fight until one ship surrenders or is destroyed," Corath replied confidently. "Understood." One moment while we informed the crew of Defiance. Both ships moved to the designated combat area. The hegemony cruiser was 3 times larger than the human destroyer and carried enough firepower to level a city. Corath expected the engagement to last minutes at most. "Begin when ready," Admiral Chen announced. The Stellar Dominator immediately opened fire with its main energy cannons. Bright beams of concentrated plasma streaked across space toward the human ship. Corath watched with satisfaction, knowing that no shield system could withstand that much energy. The human destroyer did something impossible. Instead of trying to block the energy beams, it moved out of the way. The ship accelerated and turned, so quickly that it seemed to teleport from one position to another. The plasma beams passed harmlessly through empty space. How did they move so fast? Admiral Vexithera asked in shock. Before anyone could answer, the human ship fired back. But instead of energy weapons, it launched physical projectiles. Chunks of metal streaked across space at incredible speed. The hegemony cruiser's shields flared as the projectiles struck, but the kinetic energy somehow passed right through the energy barriers. The metal projectiles hit the cruiser's hull with devastating effect. Armor that could withstand the heat of a star was torn apart like paper. Secondary explosions began erupting across the hegemony ship's surface. "That's impossible," Corath whispered. "Energy shields stop all physical attacks." The human destroyer fired again, this time with weapons that looked like energy beams but behaved differently than any technology in the hegemony database. The beams cut through the cruiser's armor like it wasn't there. The Stellar Dominator tried to return fire, but the human ship kept moving in ways that defied physics. It accelerated, decelerated, and changed direction, without the gradual curves that normal ships required. The crew inside should have been crushed by the forces involved, but somehow the ship kept fighting. Within 90 seconds, the hegemony cruiser was a floating wreck. Its weapons were destroyed, its engines were dead, and its hull was torn open in dozens of places. The human destroyer had not taken a single hit. Emergency beacons began broadcasting from the cruiser as escape pods launched. To Corath's amazement, the human ship immediately stopped attacking and moved to assist with the rescue operation. "Defiance to all hegemony vessels," came a voice over the communication channel. "We have rescue ships standing by to assist with survivor recovery. Please, hold your position while we render aid." Admiral Chen appeared on the communication screen again. "Emperor, I hope that demonstration was informative. We don't enjoy violence, but we want you to understand that we're prepared for it if necessary." Corath stared at the tactical display in disbelief. His best cruiser had been destroyed in less than 2 minutes by a ship 1/3 its size. Worse, the humans had immediately offered help to the crew they had just defeated. "What kind of weapons were those?" he demanded. "Kinetic accelerators and particle beam systems," Admiral Chen replied, matter-of-factly. "We found that energy shields, while effective against directed energy weapons, don't work well against high-velocity physical projectiles. We also developed particle beams that disrupt molecular bonds rather than simply applying heat." "And your maneuverability? How do you change direction without killing your crew?" "Artificial gravity systems. We can maintain normal gravity inside our ships regardless of external acceleration. It took us a while to figure out the physics, but once we did, it opened up many tactical possibilities." Corath realized he was looking at technology far beyond anything the hegemony had developed. These humans had found solutions to problems his scientists didn't even know existed. "What do you want?" he asked quietly. "We want the slavery to stop," Admiral Chen said, her voice becoming harder. "We want the raids on primitive worlds to end. We want the forced labor camps shut down. We want the galactic community to be based on cooperation instead of conquest." "And if we refuse?" Admiral Chen was quiet for a moment. When she spoke, her words chilled Corath to his core. "Emperor, that was 1 destroyer against 1 cruiser. Our full fleet includes over 8,000 ships, many much more powerful than Defiance. We really hope it doesn't come to a general engagement." Corath looked around his bridge at the faces of his officers. They all showed the same expression of shock and fear. For the first time in his life, The Emperor faced an enemy that was clearly superior to his forces. "I need time to consider your demands," he said finally. "Of course, we're prepared to wait while you consult with your government." "But Emperor," Admiral Chen's image leaned forward slightly. "Don't take too long. While we're talking, people are suffering in your labor camps. Our patience has limits." The communication screen went dark, leaving Corath alone with the terrible knowledge that everything he had built might be about to end. Dr. Veltirin had not slept in 3 days. The chief xenobiologist of the galactic hegemony sat surrounded by data screens, computer printouts, and analysis reports. Around her, the best scientists and military strategists in the Empire worked, frantically to understand the human threat. "Status report," Admiral Vexithera said as she entered the research laboratory aboard Nexus Prime. "Disturbing, Admiral," Dr. Veltiran replied, without looking up from her work. "The more we learn about these humans, the more frightening they become." The insect-like scientist activated a holographic display, showing the human ships they had encountered. "Look at this construction pattern. Most species develop technology along similar paths: energy-based weapons, force field defenses, anti-grav, propulsion. The humans appear to have developed multiple technological approaches simultaneously." Admiral Vexthara studied the display. "Explain." "They use kinetic weapons that fire solid projectiles at enormous speeds. These completely bypass our energy shields. They also use particle beams that work on different principles than our energy weapons. Most remarkable, they have mastered artificial gravity to a degree we thought impossible." Dr. Yilvana, the chief physicist, joined the conversation. "Admiral, we've been analyzing the sensor data from the combat demonstration. The human destroyer pulled maneuvers that should have killed everyone aboard. The gravitational forces involved would liquefy most known biological species. Yet their crew survived," Admiral Vexthera observed. "More than survived. They fought with perfect efficiency throughout the engagement. This suggests they have solved the fundamental problem that limits all space combat: how to protect biological crew from extreme acceleration." Dr. Veltirin pulled up another display. "That's not the most disturbing discovery, Admiral. We've been analyzing their communication broadcasts, trying to understand their language and culture. What we found changes everything." The screen showed astronomical data and planetary information. The humans call their homeworld Earth. When we located it in our stellar databases, we made a shocking discovery. Earth is what we classify as a Class X death world. Admiral Vexithera felt her skin go cold. Death worlds were planets so hostile that they were considered uninhabitable. The hegemony had surveyed thousands of such worlds but never found intelligent life on any of them. "That's impossible," she said. "Nothing can evolve intelligence on a death world. The environmental pressures are too extreme." "Look at the data," Dr. Veltirin insisted. "Earth experiences massive climate variations, extreme weather patterns, frequent natural disasters, and a gravity well 50% stronger than most inhabited worlds. The planet is covered with predatory species specifically evolved to hunt and kill." The display showed images captured from human broadcasts: storms that could destroy cities, earthquakes that changed the shape of continents, and creatures with claws, fangs, and venom designed for killing. "Worse," Dr. Yilvana added, "their history shows constant warfare between different human groups. While most species develop space travel to escape conflict, humans developed it while still fighting wars on their homeworld." Admiral Vexithera stared at the information in growing horror. "You're saying these humans evolved on a planet that should have killed them, survived constant natural disasters, and developed advanced technology while fighting each other?" "Exactly," Dr. Veltirin confirmed. "And now we understand why their technology is so different from ours. They didn't develop in safe environments with abundant resources. Every advancement had to work in extreme conditions against hostile forces." General Thakmar, the military strategic advisor, activated another display. "This explains their tactical advantages. Their weapons are designed to work against opponents who can't be reasoned with: natural disasters, predatory animals, and hostile environments." They never had the luxury of developing civilized warfare with rules and limitations. Their armor and shielding systems, Dr. Yilvana continued, are designed to protect against multiple threat types simultaneously: physical impacts, extreme temperatures, radiation, chemical attacks. Our specialized systems are superior in single categories, but theirs work against everything at once. Admiral Vexithara began to understand the scope of the problem. Their ships are built like their species, to survive anything. Worse than that, General Thokmar said grimly. I've been analyzing their tactical formations and communication patterns. These humans fight as a unified force, but they also show independent thinking and adaptation at every level. Most species require central command structures for coordinated action. Humans seem to coordinate naturally. Dr. Veltirin brought up the final piece of data that had kept her awake for days. Admiral, I've been studying their cultural broadcasts and historical records. The most terrifying discovery is their motivation for being here. The screen showed intercepted communications between human ships. They didn't come to conquer us. They came because they detected evidence of oppression and slavery in our space. For humans, apparently, the systematic abuse of intelligent beings is considered one of the worst possible crimes. They're here to stop us, Admiral Vexithara said quietly. Yes, and based on their history, when humans decide something is morally unacceptable, they don't compromise or negotiate half measures. They completely eliminate the problem. General Thokmar pulled up tactical projections. Admiral, I've run every possible scenario through our combat computers. If the humans are telling the truth about having 8,000 ships, and if their other vessels are even half as capable as that destroyer, we cannot win a direct military confrontation. What about a defensive strategy? Fall back to our core systems and force them to attack fortified positions? Ineffective. Their stealth capabilities mean they can strike anywhere without warning. Their kinetic weapons can likely punch through our strongest fortifications, and their artificial gravity systems give them tactical flexibility we cannot match. Dr. Veltirin activated a star chart showing hegemony space. There's another problem, Admiral. The humans have been monitoring our communications for an unknown period. They know the locations of our military bases, our supply lines, our administrative centers. They probably know our defensive plans better than we do. Admiral, Vexthara felt the weight of empire-ending knowledge settling on her shoulders. Everything the hegemony had built was based on superior technology and overwhelming force. These humans possessed both advantages, plus tactical knowledge and moral certainty. Recommendations? She asked. The scientists and strategists looked at each other uncomfortably. Finally, Dr. Veltirin spoke. Admiral, these humans are apex predators from a death world. They evolved to survive anything their planet could throw at them, then developed technology to survive anything the universe could throw at them. They've been watching us for years, learning our weaknesses, planning their approach. And now, they're here to stop what they see as galactic-scale atrocities, General Thokmar added. This isn't about territory or resources. For them, this is about fundamental right and wrong. Admiral Vexithara nodded slowly. I need to brief the Emperor, immediately. He needs to understand that we're not facing another ambitious species trying to expand their territory. We're facing a force that considers our entire civilization to be morally unacceptable. As she left the laboratory, the Admiral carried with her the knowledge that would change everything. The galactic hegemony had built its power through conquest and oppression. Now they faced opponents who viewed conquest and oppression as evils that must be eliminated. The humans weren't coming to join the galactic community. They were coming to change it completely, and from everything the scientists had discovered, they had the power to do exactly that. The Galactic Hegemony Council chamber had never been so quiet. Emperor Corath stood at the head of the great table, but his usual commanding presence was gone. Around him, representatives from dozens of species waited for him to speak. They all knew their entire civilization was about to change forever. Admiral Chen's image appeared on the massive communication screen. Behind her, the bridge of her flagship showed calm efficiency. Human officers worked at their stations with quiet confidence as if demanding the surrender of the galaxy's most powerful empire was routine business. Emperor Corath, Admiral Chen began, "We've given you 72 hours to consider our terms. Have you reached a decision?" Corath looked around the chamber at the faces of his advisors and allies. Admiral Vexithara gave him a slight nod. Their military analysis was complete and the conclusions were undeniable. Dr. Velteran's research had revealed the true nature of their opponents. General Thakmar's strategic assessment offered no hope of victory. "Admiral Chen," the Emperor said slowly, "before I respond to your ultimatum, I want to understand something. Why does Earth care about our internal affairs? Our empire has brought order and stability to this galaxy for over 1,000 years." Admiral Chen's expression remained neutral, but her eyes showed something that made Corath uncomfortable. Not anger or hatred, but disappointment. "Emperor, your order and stability is built on the suffering of billions of intelligent beings. We've monitored your slave raids, your forced labor camps, your systematic oppression of developing civilizations. From our perspective, the Galactic hegemony is not a legitimate government but a criminal organization operating on an interstellar scale. And you believe you have the right to change that? We believe every intelligent being has the right to be free from slavery and oppression. When we detected evidence of systematic abuse across multiple star systems, we decided we couldn't ignore it any longer." Counselor Zelmoth leaned forward. "Admiral, surely we can reach some compromise. Perhaps reforms to our current system." "Admiral," Chen shook her head. "Counselor, there is no compromise position between freedom and slavery. Our terms are non-negotiable. Immediate cessation of all forced labor, release of all enslaved populations, reparations for affected species, and fundamental changes to your governmental structure." "And if we refuse?" Emperor Corath asked, though he already knew the answer. "Then we will systematically dismantle your military and governmental infrastructure until the oppression stops. We prefer voluntary compliance, but we're prepared for the alternative." The Emperor closed his eyes for a moment. 3 days ago, he had ruled the galaxy's most powerful empire. Now he faced opponents who possessed overwhelming technological superiority, detailed intelligence about his forces, and unshakable moral conviction. Every strategic analysis concluded the same thing. Resistance was futile. "Admiral Chen," he said finally, "I hereby announce the formal surrender of the galactic hegemony. We accept your terms and will begin implementing the changes you require." The contour words felt like poison in his mouth, but Corath knew they were necessary. Better to surrender with dignity than to watch his civilization be destroyed in a hopeless war. "Thank you, Emperor," Admiral Chen replied. "We know this is difficult, but we believe it's the right choice for everyone involved." Over the following weeks, the galaxy transformed in ways no one had thought possible. Human ships appeared at hegemony military bases, not to occupy them but to oversee the peaceful transition of power. Slave labor camps were opened and their populations evacuated to safe worlds. The massive bureaucracy that had administered oppression across dozens of star systems was carefully dismantled. What surprised many species was how the humans handled their victory. They didn't establish military governors or demand tribute. Instead, they worked with local populations to establish new governments based on voluntary cooperation rather than forced submission. Captain Zilandra found herself assigned as a liaison between her reformed people and the Terran Defense Fleet. She had expected to hate the humans for destroying her empire, but working with them daily had changed her perspective. "Commander Torres," she said to her human counterpart, "I have a question that has been bothering me." "What's that, Captain?" Commander Maria Torres was typical of the human Zilandra had met. Competent, professional, and surprisingly friendly, considering they had recently conquered the galaxy. "Your people could have simply destroyed our fleets and taken whatever you wanted. Instead, you're helping us build better societies." "Why?" Commander Torres smiled. "Captain, we didn't come here to build an empire. We came to stop oppression. Once that's accomplished, our job is to help everyone build something better. But surely Earth benefits from controlling galactic trade and resources." "Actually, no. Earth is entirely self-sufficient, and has been for generations. We have everything we need on our own world and in our own solar system. We're not here for profit or power. Zelandra found this concept difficult to understand. Every species she knew pursued expansion for resources or strategic advantage. Then why did you come at all? Because it was the right thing to do, Commander, Torres said simply. We couldn't ignore the evidence of systematic oppression across multiple civilizations. Our history taught us what happens when good people do nothing while others suffer. Months passed as the new order took shape. The former hegemony territories were reorganized into the Galactic Cooperative, a voluntary association of independent worlds working together for mutual benefit. Trade flowed more freely than ever before, as species no longer feared conquest for their resources. The humans established defense agreements with worlds that requested protection, but their fleet mainly patrolled space looking for signs of new oppression. They made it clear that any attempt to recreate the old system of conquest and slavery would be met with immediate intervention. Dr. Veltiran, now working as a xenobiologist for the cooperative rather than the hegemony, made regular reports to the new Galactic Council. The transformation has been remarkable, she reported. Species that were enslaved for centuries are developing their own technologies and cultures. Worlds that were strip-mined for resources are beginning ecological restoration. Trade and cooperation have replaced conquest and exploitation. Not everyone accepted the changes peacefully. Several hegemony hardliners attempted to organize resistance movements, hoping to restore the old order through violence and terror. These efforts failed quickly when human intelligence networks, which had been monitoring hegemony communications for years, provided advance warning of every plot. The resistance movements discovered that fighting humans was even more difficult than they had imagined. The humans seemed to anticipate every move, counter every strategy, and respond to every threat with overwhelming precision. More disturbing, they showed the same mercy to defeated enemies that they had during the initial conquest, offering rehabilitation rather than punishment. A year after the surrender, Emperor Corath found himself in an unexpected position. The humans had offered him a choice: exile to a remote world, or service as an advisor helping to transition former hegemony territories to the new system. Surprisingly, he had chosen service. I don't understand you people, he said to Admiral Chen during one of their regular meetings. You defeated the most powerful empire in galactic history, then offered its former ruler a job helping you fix the damage. Why? Admiral Chen smiled. Emperor, sorry, Corath, you ruled for decades, but you were born into a system that taught you conquest was normal and slavery was acceptable. We believe people can change when they're shown better alternatives. And if I had refused to change, then you'd be living quietly on a nice planet somewhere, probably writing your memoirs. We're not interested in revenge, just in stopping the harm. Corath shook his head in amazement. On my world, defeated enemies were either killed or enslaved. The idea of offering them redemption was considered weakness. Maybe that's why your system ultimately failed, Admiral Chen suggested. Building a civilization on fear and oppression might work for a while, but it's not sustainable. Eventually, you run out of people to conquer or someone stronger comes along. The conversation was interrupted by an alert from the communication system. Admiral, we're receiving a distress signal from the Outer Rim. Unknown raiders are attacking. Merchant ships. Admiral Chen stood immediately. Dispatch the nearest patrol squadron, full investigation protocols. As she prepared to leave, Corath asked, Will you destroy these raiders? If necessary, she replied. But first we'll try to find out why they're raiding. Sometimes pirates are just criminals, but sometimes they're desperate people who think they have no other choice. If it's desperation, we'll try to address the underlying problem. Watching Admiral Chen leave to deal with the new crisis, Corath reflected on how much his understanding of power had changed. The humans wielded greater military force than his empire ever had, but they used it sparingly and always with the goal of protecting rather than conquering. In the observation deck of the space station that had once been Nexus Prime, Captain Zelandra watched a group of human children playing. They were visiting with their parents who served in the Terran Defense Fleet. The children laughed and played games, looking no different from young beings of any other species. It was,